Hey After Effects users, this is Noel Powell from creationeffects.com, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make a retro VHS effect for your footage in Adobe After Effects. There are actually a bunch of tutorials out there already that show how to make different VHS looks, and if I didn't think that mine would be the best, then I wouldn't be wasting my time. And if you're thinking, well, this guy certainly thinks very highly of himself, well, when it comes to everything else in life, I have zero confidence, so you know, maybe just let me have this one. I do know VHS. I grew up kind of obsessed with it, and I've made a VHS effect product before that was very successful, so I'm going to show you some of the tricks and effects that I used in that product, and I'll also show you where to download this totally free clip of authentic VHS static and VHS audio hum, which is going to really do a lot to make the effect feel authentic. So let's get started. All right, I'm in After Effects and I've got some footage here, 4 different clips. Got this guy on a dark background that'll help us see some effects, and this one's on a tripod, and some girls that look kind of 90s. I guess we've come full circle, so what looked 90s now looks today. But anyway, we got these guys. I don't know what they're doing, but they seem happy. Just to make things easier for us, I'm going to pre-compose these layers so that they're all on one layer. So I'll just select them all and go to Layer and Pre-compose. We'll just call it Footage. And we can start with a Color Emboss effect. So I'll type it into my Effects and Presets panel and double-click that. We'll set the relief to 2 and the contrast to 200. And you can kind of see what that did. It added like a halo around edges. Sometimes it's a light halo, sometimes it's dark, but that is very VHS, and just seeing that makes me feel nostalgic, and it's really weird how that works. How I can see bad quality video and get a warm fuzzy feeling from it. I guess because we associate that with our youth when the world was better, but whatever, everything sucks now. Let's keep going. Next we can add some pixelation. You could do this with a mosaic effect, but I want to add interlacing, which also gives a look of pixelation. So it's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone, and I hate birds, so this is a very attractive option to me. We'll just go in here, and we're going to use the grid effect. Here it is. So our goal is to get these lines to mimic the scan lines of analog video. So we're going to put the anchor at 0, and we'll set this to width and height sliders. I just think they're easier to work with. For the width, we'll just turn it all the way up. If you hold down the shift when you drag, it goes a lot faster. And the height can be 6. Let me zoom in. Border can be 4. And we'll set the blending mode to stencil alpha. So what that did is wherever there was a line, we can see the footage, and wherever there was no line, it's just transparent. And so now we can duplicate this layer, Command D or Control D, and on the bottom one, we'll just remove that grid effect, and there's no change to this at all right now, but if we offset, I'll zoom in a little bit, we'll offset the timing of this layer just by 1 frame. And that's the look we're going for. I mean, that looks terrible, but when you zoom out and play it back, it's not as noticeable. Most interlace effects that I've seen online, realistically, we shouldn't be able to see the interlacing when there isn't any motion. Like on this area, which is on a tripod, we don't see it, but the boat is moving, so we do see it there. And that's what we want. All right, I'm going to go back to that the layer with the grid effect, and we're going to duplicate the grid. And we're going to use this copy to make just some black horizontal scan lines. So we'll change the color to black. And we'll make the border 1. That's the width of the lines. And the anchor will make 1 on the y-axis. And we don't see it. Oh, we got to make this multiply. Set the blending mode to multiply. And here they are. Those are very sharp edges, and we're going to soften this up later. But that's good for now. I'm going to add a adjustment layer next. I'll go to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer. So any effects we add to this layer will affect everything underneath. Let's start with a levels effect. So we're going to mess with the contrast a little bit. We're going to do what's called crush the blacks, which isn't racist at all, because we're also going to crush the whites. And that increased the contrast, but we're also going to limit our blacks and whites so that the black isn't pure black, but more like a gray, and the white won't be quite so white. All right, now let's soften that up. Like I said, we're going to use a fast blocks blur. Say that 3 times fast. I won't even try because I know I can't do it. And we're just going to set the blur radius to 0.3, so it's not as sharp or detailed. Next we can add a hue saturation effect. VHS shouldn't be as vibrant as HD, so we're going to desaturate it, and we can put this all the way to -50. Do we dare go down that far? We do. No, we don't. It's too much. See, I told you I have no confidence in myself. We'll do -33. You can go down to -50 if you want, depending on how you live your life. Now we'll add a channel blur. This will let you blur the individual color channels. It helps give that color bleed effect. I usually blur the blue. I think that looks best. There are different ways to do this effect that are more realistic, but this is a quick and easy way. You can see now how there's a bleed around her edge here, and the trees here have a color which I won't name the color because I'm colorblind and I would just make a fool of myself. I basically see 2 colors. There's warm and there's cool. Okay, I think we're ready to bring in some VHS static. So like I said, I've got a free clip on the website, and I'll leave a link in the description so you can go download it, or just go to creationeffects.com and then go to the freebies page. There's a bunch of free stuff, free presets, free effects for After Effects. We're looking for this one down here. So you can just hit the download button for that and add it to your cart, and it doesn't cost anything. There's also a link here for Creation VHS Effects, which is that huge collection of custom effects that I offer. And I just gave it a big update. It brings the VHS damage to a whole new level. The effects I'm showing you now are great for a basic VHS effect, but if you want more control, or you're looking for more options, this template has lots of different preset VHS looks, so you can just drop in your footage, and then you can control the intensity of the effects with a single slider control. And the presets range from subtle VHS vibes to full-blown, unwatchable garbage. And it also has lots of TV and VHS static to choose from. It has audio distortion effects like pitch modulation and EQ to make the audio in your footage sound like a bad VHS tape. It has a bunch of VHS transition effects for editing, and just a bunch of other cool analog glitch and warping effects like a fast forward, color bleeds, image flickering, this analog TV effect, and a bunch more. So I'll leave a link in the description for that one if you want to check it out and take your VHS effect up a few notches. But let's finish our effect here. Once you download that VHS static clip, you can bring it into After Effects, and I think it's like 15 seconds long. So depending on how long your footage is, you might want to make it loop. We could do that by right-clicking it and then go to Interpret Footage and Main, and I'll just set it to loop 10 times. So now when we bring it in, it'll be long enough. Actually, we want this above our adjustment layer so it's not affected by that color bleed. And this might be too much, more than I really want. So we can subdue it with a levels effect. Now let's do curves. And we'll just bring down the midtones a bit. That should be good. And we need to set the blending mode. Screen is probably the best. And you might notice there's a lot more going on at the bottom than up here. And there's a specific look I'm going for. Often you'll see that the bottom of the video is really screwed up with lots of static. So I'm going to move this clip down. And now we don't see anything up here because here's the top of the clip, but maybe what I'll do is I'll duplicate it and I'll bring the anchor point up to here. So you can do that with the pan behind tool. And now I can reveal the scale property for this layer by hitting the S key, and I'll unlink this so that I can scale just the Y axis. And we don't want like a perfect mirror copy of this, so I'll just offset this clip a little bit. And I don't need it to be that intense, so I'm going to bring the opacity down to 50% on both those layers. And also we only want to hear one of those layers, so I'll mute that one. Okay, next let's go back to our adjustment layer, select that, and we can close these. And let's add a CC Bender effect. What I want to do is add some warping to the very bottom here where the static shows up the heaviest. And there's a lot of ways to do it, but I think this is the easiest and it looks good. Let's bring the top point down to the very bottom of the footage, and this other one, the base, I'll bring it down to about here where we want the bending to start. And we can turn this up now either direction. We can go to like 11, and to make that bend wiggle back and forth, we'll add a little expression. I'll alt click the amount on this stopwatch icon, and that opens up an expression box, and we'll just do wiggle parentheses 5 times a second, comma, it'll wiggle by an amount of 5. Okay, there's another warping effect that's very common in these VHS looks. We want to get those horizontal lines that scroll down the image, and the pixels are displaced horizontally or vertically along those lines. So the best way to do that is with a displacement map effect, and we'll put that on the adjustment layer. So this effect needs a displacement map, and we're going to have to make that. The map is just a gradient. It tells this effect where and how much to displace the pixels of our footage. So what we want is a neutral gray, 50% gray solid layer. So I'll go to Layer, New, Solid, and for the color we'll just do 818181. That's 50% gray. And then we'll call it Displacement Map. And that's the wrong resolution, so we'll do it Make Comp Size. And we'll add a fractal noise effect to this. I'll just solo that layer, so that's the only layer we see. And actually this can go to the bottom. We're never going to see this layer. It'll be turned off when we're done customizing. On the fractal noise effect, we'll set the blending mode to multiply. And the scale width, that's in the transform section here. We'll uncheck uniform scaling so we can edit these independently. And for the width, we'll turn that all the way up to 10,000. And the height, we can make it about 25. To make these lines scroll downward, we're going to add a simple expression on the offset turbulence property here. So I'll alt click that stopwatch, and we'll do opening bracket, and we need 2 values, one for the X position and one for the Y position. For the X, it'll just be 0. It doesn't matter. It's not going to move. And for the Y, we're going to do time times, so a little asterisk, and about 200. And then we'll do an end bracket. So on the Y-axis, on this value, every second, it's going to add about 200 to this value. And depending on the speed that you want, you can edit that value. And this is way too many lines, so we need to adjust the contrast and brightness. Contrast can be about 300, and the brightness can be maybe 120, depending on how many lines you want. You can experiment with other fractal types if you want. Complexity, we should probably turn that down. That might be a little thick, so good enough. Okay, so now we can hide that layer, and on our adjustment layer, in the displacement map effect, we'll set the displacement map layer to that map we just made. And instead of using the color channels, we're going to use luminance. And don't forget to set this to effects and masks. We want to take the effects that we put on the displacement map into account. By the way that this works, if it's 50% gray, pixels are not displaced at all. If they're anything darker, pixels will be displaced in one direction, and if they're lighter than gray, they'll be displaced in the opposite direction. So you can see here we've got a line here. Our effect is actually displacing our scan lines. I don't really want to affect the scan lines so much, so maybe I'll turn that down to like 2, and we'll mostly just increase the horizontal. You can do however much you want. I'm just going to do I'll do 23. Okay, we're almost at the end. Let's add some black bars because this is 16 by 9 and that wasn't really a thing in 1991. So let's add a black solid layer. I'll call it black bars. Make it black. And I'll put that at the top. And we can do this really easily with a preset. It's called Barn Doors. I'll drag that on there, and I'll remove that keyframe by clicking the stopwatch. It's a transition effect, and this control affects the completion of the transition, and we'll just set it to 25% to get the right 4:3 aspect ratio that we need. And it's got kind of a sharp edge, so we want to soften that up a little bit. We'll do fast box blur and set this to 1. And one more final touch. I saved it for last because this effect is a little bit slower. I'm just going to duplicate the black bars layer and rename it grain. And I'll put it underneath the black bars. We don't need these effects on there. I'll select them and delete them. And we'll add grain. It's called add grain. We'll add grain. And by default, the grain only shows up in this little box, which is stupid. But I guess they were thinking it's so slow, and having it in the box speeds it up a little bit. We'll change the viewing mode to final output to make it appear over the whole frame. Size we'll set to 5. Aspect ratio, we want to stretch them out a little bit. I'll set that to 3. And you can experiment with different blending modes. I think I want to set mine to color. And let's make this an adjustment layer. Now, just the areas that had the noise are affecting the colors of this video. So it's just adding little bits of discoloration, which as a colorblind person, I barely notice. But I know that in theory it's there. So I'm just gonna go with it. And there you go. I think I might do a similar tutorial for an old film look and a digital glitch look, so you can be on the lookout for those. Or subscribe and you can see when I release new free presets or new After Effects tutorials. And if you poke around the site, you're going to see some really unique stuff for After Effects users. The latest is the mixed media effect. It's a huge package of custom effects that let you easily and quickly turn your footage into a mixed media animation. Or you could check out Landscaper. That one lets you make any kind of landscape animation in After Effects, from beaches to jungles to deserts to wintry landscapes. Or there's Creation Trippy Effects, which has a huge collection of trippy looks for your footage, as well as custom trippy animations. Or Space Effects has everything you need to make a variety of space animations like the Earth and planets, and nebula, galaxies, a solar system, and a really realistic sun. There's a Critter Collection series, which lets you animate 3D birds or insects or fish. They've got a lot of different species, and it makes it really easy to add entire flocks or swarms or schools to your videos. And the last one I'll leave you with is Creation Artifacts. It has 50 custom artistic looks for your footage, such as pencil sketch and oil paint, halftone, graffiti, claymation, and a bunch more. All of those templates and other creative effects at creationeffects.com.